Greetings and what's flipping up to our wonderful sharp boys and girls in our beloved EDC family. We're going to do something a little bit different today, but before I do what I always do and digress, let's go over and give a little bit of a hello to every one of you, right? So welcome to Carryorbury, the only knife channel where we will give you our review, and at the end of the review, if the item, the EDC item, doesn't make the cut, we will literally bury it in the backyard in little toy coffins. Pretty cool, right? At any rate, we kind of do a little game with it. And who am I? Well, I'm your host, Prophet. And with me, as always, is the professor. And I'm sure that you all know that we have a new gentleman that helps out around here named Herc. And I'm sure that Chaos is barking and crying and kicking around here somewhere, and Cuz is somewhere off doing Cuz things, sharpening things like that. Well, what we want to do is let you know that everyone here at Carryorbury says hello, we send our love, and we have an exciting review for you today, right? But before we introduce today's items, let's do our little disclosure real quick. So, about our EDC item today, or whatever we're doing, and all other EDC items that we have or had or will have on our channel up to date. Remember folks, we don't have sponsorship, we don't have channel membership yet. This EDC item has been purchased by us, used and tested by us in the real world. It is something that we want you to know. Now, is this item right for you? Is it even legal to own or carry said item? Well, remember, we're YouTubers, we're not lawyers. You should never get legal advice from anyone that is sitting under a camera holding sharp knives. But seriously, talk to a professional. Look into and know about your local knife laws. There's a lot of different companies out there and a lot of different groups that can help with that. One that we know of that we support is akti.org. They are the American Knife and Tool Institute. And folks, they are on the front lines and they're helping us keep our freedoms and our rights. Okay, enough of that. Now, I'm sure you're all thinking that this Grimsmo Norseman, the COVID edition or whatever you want to call it, the lockdown edition, is probably what we're going to be talking about, right? But Prophet, you guys just did that. Yeah, I know. We're going to put that aside for now, and we're going to do something a little bit wild, a little bit crazy, if you will. Bear with me. Oh, what do we have on the table here? Well, these are coins, pocket pieces, call them whatever you want. So what we wanted to talk a little bit about today is what EDC is. EDC is everyday carry. Now, normally we would have another thing to go over with you, but YouTube really frowns and looks down upon things that, I don't know, make explosions and unalive things, animals, people, etc. And honestly, it's probably a good thing that we don't promote that on a channel. We want to review items that even the young ones or of age ones can pick up, and maybe even younger sometime. We may have fidget spinners, we may have pocket pieces, like the one you're looking at right now, and the ones that you're looking at below. Now, obviously, these are all graded and slabbed. I just wanted to kind of give you an idea, right? So yeah, pocket pieces, coins, these are everyday carry items. And in fact, a really good preparer or prepper will know that if stuff hits the fan one day, having things of intrinsic value, right? Gold and silver value, that is something that really, it can be worth its weight in silver and gold, right? We may go back to barter systems one day. We may have, I watch the Y-Files. I'm sure you all do as well. We could have a Carrington type event here, and all of our electronics and all the Carryorbury trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers, that all is going to be gone. So just remember, your everyday carry stuff, we focus a lot on knives here at Carryorbury, but we read our comments, we talk to our subscribers, we talk to our EDC family, and you guys want us to mix it up sometimes, and I don't blame you. The reason that knives have been so prevalent on our channel is because we own a lot of them. We have a large amount of them here on the compound. It's something that got me into the hobby. And of course, we have bug out bags and food stores and gasoline stores and generators and, you know, lots of different ways to try to communicate if something were to happen. And we could possibly get into all that very soon, right? But the heart of the channel is reviewing a piece of EDC gear and either recommending that you buy it and carry it, or we don't recommend that you buy it and carry it, and we bury it, right, in these cute little coffins. I'm going to put this coin away. You know, another thing that we think about all the time is, well, we're showing you all these beautiful things, right? And when I say beautiful, some of these are not just tools, they're works of art. Take this absolute master class knife. So this here is a G&G Hawk Deadlock. This is the John Wick 4 edition. This has got the, obviously, the marbled carbon fiber, the titanium. It's got the wonderful pocket clip. It has got the comfort of, you know, John Wick can use this just as well as I could, maybe a little better, I guess. But this knife has been engineered by a father and son and manufactured so that, as like other out the front type knives, it doesn't wiggle. There's no wiggling on the knife, which is pretty cool. I'm going to just wipe my fingerprint off there because Lord knows it's going to probably stain it. When you pay $5,000 for a knife, you tend to either not care or you tend to, I don't know, treat it a little bit different. Well, anyways, I digress yet again. Now, we could get into other things. We could get into big flashlights, right? You know, huge flashlights. We could get into little tiny flashlights that fit really in the palm of your hand, or torches for our friends and family overseas. We can get into all of that. Absolutely no problem. One day we 100% will. But today's video has been a pretty large request. A lot of folks want to talk about how to keep your knives sharp. Looking at this scaphoid here by Jim Skelton, obviously. He is another fellow YouTuber and also knife maker, knife designer, and just one heck of a guy. A photographer, just amazing dude. Jim, I picked this up when he made these. I absolutely love it. You've got titanium, you've got inlay carbon fiber, you've got Jim's wonderful little guy here, right? But most importantly, you have a razor sharp compound grind Tonto, okay? And that can be a little bit difficult for someone to sharpen. Honestly, it really can. So what do you do once these are going to hold, this is S90V, so it's going to hold its edge for a long time. But what does even that mean, right? So we're going to start at the basics today. I think that's the best way to do this. All right, folks. Now, one of the things that we can actually talk about here on the channel, first and foremost, is the maintenance of all these guys, right? Like cleaning, breaking down, manufacturing, warranty stuff. Should I take my knife apart? Is it something that would break my warranty? Those are all things we'll get to. But I feel that before we get into breaking down and lubricating and oiling and making sure that everything's dead centered, I think one of the things that we need to talk about is how to keep the knife sharp. I think that's really going to be it. And don't get me wrong, we are going to get into knife maintenance. We're going to be providing tutorials on these topics that will be valuable for all of you, right? But we are also going to give you some tips to consider when doing that or when making your decisions, because not everything is black and white these days. You know, there's a lot of gray areas. There's a lot of common mistakes. There are different techniques for everything. You can go on YouTube and watch one person clean or sharpen a knife, and then you watch another one and it's completely different. So which one's right? We are going to try to find a format to bring to you 3 different knife sharpeners. We're going to start with a little bit of a more advanced one. Then we are going to go down to one that is very readily available. A lot of people seem to like it. It's more motorized, right? Kind of gives you a lot quicker sharpening things, some more options there. And then we're going to have the newest sharpening system that is literally taking the internet by storm. I hate using those references, but you know, it's true, right? Now, one thing that I would like to reference real quick here that I think is really, really important before we get going is really just understanding what steel is, right? Understanding what makes one knife stand out from another knife. And there's a lot of things, but we're not going to go through all those rabbit holes right now. Just Let's just talk about steel. In the most basic form, steel is just iron and carbon, basically. Yes, I get it. There's a lot of other things that can add to corrosion resistance, and let's just keep it basic, okay? Now, over time, we have experimented with, okay? We have perfected, and we have used, like I just said, other elements for specific applications. This has been happening for millennia, okay? Really, it truly has. The study of steel today is pretty complex. It's not something that is really for the average person, and I'll tell you why. You're going to be having to learn things like structure of the atoms, right? You're going to have to learn crystalline structure. You're going to have to learn a lot of that stuff, and then that really gets crazy. So I'm going to save you a lot of time. Professor and I are going to save you a lot of time. There is a YouTuber and an author and a creator of this very steel right here. MagnaCut. This is MagnaCut steel. I'm sure you've heard of it. It too is all the rave right now. The person who created MagnaCut is a doctor Laren Thomas. He is a professional metallurgist. He was raised by a knife maker and a knife nerd. He's the mind and the writer of Knife Steel Nerds. They have a YouTube channel, Knife Steel Nerds. They are a go-to source for knowledge regarding steel and how to make it into its best properties and everything around the corner, right? He has a book called Knife Engineering, which I strongly urge you pick up. Dr. Thomas knows nothing about our little channel. He is just someone that we can say carry right away without going through the game, because you should carry someone with this knowledge in your pocket at all times when dealing with knives and steel. So one of the cool things is he also has created a steel guide. You can find this on bladehq.com, and there's some other websites that have it, and you'll kind of learn all the different things that go into each steel. And actually, one really cool thing that Blade HQ and Dr. Thomas has done is they kind of give you a 3D shape of a diamond, and it shows you like where everything can go, and you know what factors where, and blah 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 with each steel, the variety of alloys, all that good stuff. So what are these factors? Well, we'll quickly go through them. We have edge retention, and what that really means is how well can the knife retain its edge during use, right, without a sharpening, right? How can we find that bittersweet area? Because really, an edge can dull from all kinds of stuff. Wear, microchipping, deformation, corrosion can actually do it, right? There's a lot of things, right? But most edge retention tests isolate wear resistance, or how long it takes when you are cutting abrasives. How long does an abrasive take to dull your edge in whatever you're cutting, right? Wear resistance comes from the hardness of the blade, of the steel, and its carbides, and all those little hard particles that they form between the carbon and any other element being used, like palladium, vanadium, tungsten, you pick. Doesn't really matter. So edge retention is the first consideration on knife steel. What's next, Prophet? Toughness. Toughness, you see, it's basically the resistance to chipping or breaking that edge, or the knife itself, right? It can kind of be for both things. A really strong steel, it can really resist impacts without chipping, without the tip breaking off. Steels that are really high in hardness and wear resistance are usually lower in toughness, okay? So remember that. So if you have a high hardness knife and wear resistance is kind of low, right? Because of that, let's say the toughness thing, you could chip that thing. Think about how hard a piece of icicle can be. You grab an icicle, I got a magnet on the Winter Blade knife here. That's pretty funny. Brian would love that. I digress again. You could take an icicle. It's hard. It does anything you want, but it's so hard once you swing it at something, boom, you've got nothing, right? And that's really what it is. So steels that are high in toughness are excellent for knives that are likely to see hard work or hard impacts. We see these in a lot of steels like D2, you know, like all those work steels, things like that. The steels that people use for sword fighting, things like that. We're going to get on to the next one, which is one of my favorites, corrosion resistance. So we're on 3 of the 4 things, right? corrosion resistance is very different between a lot of knives. I want to actually show you something here. And this is going to have its own video soon, but it's a little preview, if you will, right? This here is the Leatherman Arc. This has MagnaCut, as does Winterblade's knife here, right? Not only does this have MagnaCut, but it also has a PVD coating. Now, corrosion resistance, when you think about MagnaCut, you think about very high corrosion resistance. Yes, that is true. However, it's not just, you can't just slap MagnaCut on a steel that you've got all the MagnaCut properties and makes it that. The hardness, the HRC, and how the steel was tempered and how the steel was heat treated really take off in this mine. This is a huge company, Leatherman. They really made a splash making these arcs. I don't know if I'll be able to get it on camera, so I'm going to try very hard. Let's see here. Oh, there she is. It's on the other side, Prophet. Do you see that we are rusting right through the PVD? Right through it. I mean, and when I say this knife really got little use, it got very little use. And to see MagnaCut rusting under a PVD treatment tells me a couple things. It may not have been heat treated properly. The PVD treatment may have been laid on while there was still some kind of corrosiveness on the knife. But it is absolutely sad to see this, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this in an update on the Leatherman Arc. We're not going to go there now. I just kind of wanted to show you the difference. That knife got very little use by us. This knife, however, I've used harder than almost any knife that I own. Why? Well, one, I trust the maker of this knife, the designer of this knife. I trust that he goes through everything he can, right, to give you the best possible knife at the best possible price. And I know that his MagnaCut was heat treated to spec. So I digress again, right? So what we're trying to say here is just because a knife is claiming to have high corrosion resistance, that doesn't mean that it won't rust. You know, there could be things from the factory that cause it to. There could be things from, you know, small imperfections in the steel itself. Any steel will rust in the right conditions. I mean, there are steels that really can hold out longer than others. However, I digress again. Let's get on to the real nuts and bolts of this. Ease of sharpening. That's what we're here for, right? Ease of sharpening, Prophet. Let's get back to sharpening our knives. Ease of sharpening basically just refers to how hard it is to remove material with a sharpening stone. Simple as that. Wear resistance, it can be high, it can be low, is the most significant factor of ease of sharpening. Wear resistance. So how thick the knife is, how dull your knife was at the start, the nature of the heat treatment, what you're using to sharpen your knife, which is why we're doing this video. Basically all factor in. You can have a knife that has a absolute beast of a blade, right? And that knife is probably not going to wear down as easy, right? Especially when you got your Tonto shape and what you're doing, right? Or you could have a very, very, very thin knife that has a convex grind, a compound convex grind at that. So you've got your grind that goes in here, right, on this portion of the blade, and it also comes to an extremely fine edge. Honest to goodness, this knife could give you some problems with deep chips if you use it hard. You want to keep that profile. You don't exactly have a sharpening choil here, so you're going to be thinking, what is the best way to attack a knife like this? And one more thing. On ease of sharpening, one of my favorite knives, which you all know, is the Grimsmo Norseman. So the Grimsmo Norseman here has what's called a modified Tonto, right? But also a recurve blade. What is a recurve blade? Well, you are seeing the blade of this knife curve the other way of what you normally see. Normally, when you have a belly of a knife, some sort of belly, you are going to have a belly, right? You might kind of have a tiny recurve here on this one, but that's just from years of sharpening. This is Professor's, by the way. So great little guy. Thanks for letting us continue to use this on the channel, Professor. We all know how much this one's your baby. By the way, this is the Professor's baby. It's a great little knife, obviously. I got magnets all over this one as well. zero tolerance. This one's pretty fun. So if you haven't got to check one of these out, they're pretty good. This is actually running Elmax steel, and this is a Redford design model. Pretty cool. I believe it's the 0801. If I'm wrong, please forgive me. These are USA made, USA, all that good stuff. So great little knife again. But as you can see, we're just talking about sharpening today. Let's not get crazy. We could get into premium steels versus value steels. We could do a lot of this stuff. We could talk about high carbides. We could talk about water jetting. We could talk about all kinds of stuff that kind of attribute to more costly knives when they're finished. You know, like John and Eric are doing up in Canada, where this is all being done on machine, and it's precision insanely crazy, which gives you this super thin knife with just a beautiful guillotine blade. You know, again, I digress. And they go as far as to even give you the tools to take the knife down. Also the oil to make sure your knife is oiled. Go figure. Somebody that wants you to work on your knife, I'm blown away. I don't know about you. So for example, there's a lot of steels that are similar to one another. They could go by different names, but they may even just have different manufacturers, right? So for example, everyone knows M390, Bowler M390, and CTS 204P, and CPM 20CV are actually very close to all being the same type of identical or indistinguishable steels. So really honestly, see if another manufacturer makes something that you like, you know, kind of use Blade HQ's little format that they've done with the wonderful Laren Thomas and Knife Steel Nerds, and kind of just go by that, right? So for instance, we had an S90V knife here. We'll just quick do this for you, kind of give you an idea. And we had a Magna Cut knife. We had both of these guys sitting right here. You know, so we could talk a little bit about that. For instance, edge retention. We've got Magna Cut steel, and we have another steel here called S90V, okay? Well, we've got M390 as well. Let's do these three. Magna Cut, S90V, M390, very popular steels we would all agree with. Let's talk just edge retention. Now remember, that's just how well this knife is going to hold up, right, to its cutting stuff, to its hard use on abrasives. So this beautiful Magna Cut steel, which is one of the most popular steels in the world right now, it gets a 5.5, right? Oh no, actually, I'm so sorry. Magna Cut's a 5. Elmax is a 5.5. We're not going to add Elmax in and not going to make this confusing. Magna Cut gets a 5 on the edge retention scale. So what about S90? What about S90V? That's, you know, that obviously should get similar. I mean, if Magna Cut's super popular, S90V should get something similar. Nope, S90V gets a 9 on the edge retention scale, guys and girls and EDC family. Now, let's talk a little bit more about another really popular steel, which is M390. This is going to get 6.5. So if we were going to rearrange these on edge retention, we'd have the S90V, then we would have the M390, then the Magna Cut. So folks, this is showing you that Magna Cut, as popular as it is, as much as everyone wants it, when it comes to edge retention, it doesn't do the beauty of S90V, almost double, right? And even M390 is a 1.5 above it out of 10. You know, that's 15%. That's a lot to consider, right? So, you know, what we can do is we can kind of move on again. Let's talk about toughness. That's pretty easy to do. We'll get into the toughness thing. Let's see if any of this changes, right? How tough is this blade? You know, is it going to snap on use? Am I going to be able to use it hard? Well, Magna Cut is going to be 7 out of 10 on the toughness scale. Pretty darn cool, right? So that's something to really think about. I would imagine that's going to be one of the highest ones up in here. I'm not positive yet. We got to go through the steps, but, you know, again, I digress. S90 is going to be a 3.5. So let's get Magna Cut up here. Let's get S90 here, and let's figure out where in the world M390 is going to go. Well, that's going to be 3.5 again. And since the S90V was better on the other test, we're going to put it like this. Okay, next, here we go. Corrosion resistance. All right, folks, corrosion resistance. This is where how well a knife can withstand corroding, withstand hard use without oiling, without cleaning, without too much attention, right? So this is pretty important nowadays. So MagnaCut, that's going to be a 9.5 out of 10, just under LC200N. That's pretty impressive, to be honest with you. Next, you're going to find Bowler M390 is going to be a 9 on that. There's no wonder that that was so popular for so long. But what about our S90V guy? 7.5 out of 10. Interesting. Now, with all that being said, right, toughness, we talked about corrosion resistance, and we talked about edge retention. So as much as this is going to maintain its edge over the MagnaCut, what about ease of sharpening? Because that's a pretty big deal, right? When we're talking about this might hold its edge for a long time, but what's going to happen when we have to sharpen that knife? Now, MagnaCut is going to be a 6 out of 10 in sharpening. Not the easiest to sharpen, to be honest with you. But, it's right above that middle age area, you know what I mean? It's not going to be as easy as AUS-8. It's not even going to be as easy as LC200N. You're going to have a much better time sharpening 154 CM, CPM 154, 3V, N690, VG10. I could go on and on and on. Crew wear. But MagnaCut's a 6, so it's not super difficult, right? I mean, it's about the same as D2 or, XHP, S35VN. Those are all along that line. So it's going to be a 6 on that rating, okay? But what about M390? I'll tell you what, M390, 4.5. It's a very pain in the butt sometimes to sharpen these guys. A lot of it depends on its heat treat. A lot of it depends on, a lot of other things. Now, this might surprise you. S90V, best edge retention. But what happens, folks, when you have to get this knife sharpened again? Give up? It is one of the worst knives to sharpen. It is a 2 out of 10. The only blade steel that I'm aware of that's under it is a Maximent. So yeah, you're really kind of you're really kind to have a little bit of a challenge. So if you are somebody that does enjoy, has the correct abrasions, things like that, there are other carbide knives, things like that are obviously more hard to sharpen. You can pick up a Sandrin knife, and you're most likely going to have to send it out for sharpening. But when? You might be able to use that thing for 3-4 years before that has to happen, right? So go over to Blade HQ, take a peek at steels, take a peek at ease of sharpening. All right, folks, thanks for making it with me this far. This part of the video, we would usually kind of give you, our knowledge is king, which, I don't know, if you ask me, that knowledge is king icon should have been playing the whole darn time because we've been dropping nothing but knowledge bombs. I know Herc isn't here for this right now, but he will be here for our next knife video. Looking forward to having him back in the studio. Obviously, you see, we both are named here on the desk. We have got 3 sharpening systems that we want to try out for you. The first sharpening system is from a really reputable brand. It is called KME. I'm going to be using a Damas steel knife on this because it has a much smaller grain structure. They're not always very easy to sharpen, and it has a super thin edge, and I want to show you how apexing and burring is very important. We'll go through setup with you and all that stuff, so don't worry. This is one of the options. Again, this is the KME knife sharpener. And just to kind of throw you just a little bit of love on that, right? When it comes to carryorbury, when we go out, we go all out. This is our KME system, bin number 1. We have got sharpening stones. We have got diamond sharpening systems. We even have micro soda glass portions for this, right? And remember that Grimsmo we talked about, guys? We even have a special recurved blade deal for him that we will show you about. So we are 100% committed to going over all of this with you. I don't know if you noticed, but that said case 1 of 2. Case 2. We have even more stuff. We've got magnetizing charts. We have lots of different oil mechanisms. We have different pastes. We have different steel shining options. How do you shine it? We've got actually honing compound here. We've got, guys, we got it all. Loctites, different rouges, different types of shining up type of stuff. My point is, we are going to have a lot of fun with it. Now, I've got a tiny little the hold bubble sharpening angle guide in here too. We'll go over that a little bit. And finally, and I say this with all the love in the world, we are going to then give you a motorized option. Now, I don't have it with me right here, so just assume Professor will put you a Ken Onion knife sharpening system up from Work Sharp right here, you know, somewhere right here. Pop that right in my hands, buddy. This will be option number 2. So we can use the KME, right? That's option number 1 for our first sharpening video. Or we could use this little beautiful, however he does it, Ken Onion thing. I have it here at the compound. It's just so big, I didn't want to get it out. You know, our little recording studio is not very big, so we're going to do this one at a time. Thirdly, but we have some special for you. We have one of the most popular knife sharpening systems that now everybody's making. There's all little differences with it. Which one's best for you? Which one's, you know, works for you? Which one works for kitchen knives and EDC knives? Guess what? We're going to break it all down for you. You know, we're going to talk about, you know, what type of oils to use. You know, do we thick oil? Do we use WD-40? What do we do, Professor? How is this done? You know, then after we're done sharpening, let's talk about, you know, getting everything perfect. Let's talk about stropping. You think we're going to not talk about stropping? Guys, we got your back. I know this isn't a full carryorbury game today. I absolutely realize that, right? I didn't show you the flipper. Yeah, a lot of you are going to catch that, right? I think there's going to be a lot of hate on that. Hey, Prophet, did you not carry a knife today? Why have you not done show me the flipper so late? All right, let's just stop. Professor will put some kind of crazy thing here. One moment. It's time to show you the flipper. This is what Prophet carried today. Well, you didn't really get a lot of hard use on this guy, but it was one of those things where you're ever doing some construction stuff or something positive and you just want to have just an awesome knife, you know, just that you could look at and play with or whatever. Seam boss, like, you know, I was using razor blades for my work, right? Well, you know, a little bit of a compound mirror polished ProTech knife that is honestly the love child and designer who you might all know starts with Mick, right? Mick Strider? Just kidding. Yeah, this is Mick Strider and ProTech, who made this beautiful, beautiful SMF. And you've got mother of pearl inlay. It is an automatic knife. So again, go back to our disclaimer. If this is something you cannot own or operate, keep in mind, I absolutely love this guy. So that's the knife I carried today. I actually needed a little flashlight today, and Herc gifted me this tiny little red guy, and I have been using this like crazy. This is the Baton 3 by Olight. They have newer versions, but I love the golden red, almost like Iron Man, right? Pretty darn cool. It even has a, let me see if I can unplug it for you folks. Oh, my head's not in the shot. It even has a fun little charger base, so when you run out of charger, you could just literally pop the guy in like so, close it up, and you're charging your torch. Pretty cool. You know, we won't talk about this. I know there's a lot of other channels, Lockpicking Lawyer, McNeely. There's a lot of guys that do this at a way higher level than us, but it's an EDC channel. If you ever would like some content, if you know what this is, on lockpicking sports, not anything against the law, let us know. Obviously, coins, we all know that I am a huge coin guy, you know, Roman Empire, Greek, anything interesting, you know what I mean? It's just always been something that I love. I actually usually will put a coin by my bedside at night, every night. This particular coin is a Brazilian coin. It's restruck in 1814. And I say restruck for a reason, right? So it's a 960 Reese coin, okay, made out of about a 90% silver composition. But before this coin was a Reese and it got real huge, it was a little bit smaller, and it used to be, and I quote, an 8 real Mexican coin. Pretty darn cool. If you're interested to know a little bit more, I'll show you some of the telltale signs of this stuff. Just ask in the comments. We'd be happy to do a short on that or something. And my eyes are getting bad, so I always have a loop on me, right? And you notice I don't have a pen. Where's the pen? Well, folks, I've been doing construction today. A lot of basement stuff. I needed a sturdy, but I don't like those flat pencils really. So I got kind of an oval pencil, right? So this has been in my pocket all day or in my tool belt. That was what I carried today. I'd love to hear what you carried, right? Or what you'd like to carry in the future. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, right? We'd like to see what you carried. You got a bug out bag? We'd love to see it. Don't forget to carry us with you, by the way, by clicking subscribe and turning on those notifications. It also really helps if you can spidey flick that like button if you'd like to see more content like this, which is something we really haven't done before. But remember, folks, with your help, we can and will be the most prepared family on YouTube and beyond, the one and only EDC family. Now, until next time, EDC family, keep those blades sharp. And we're going to show you how next week. We're going to do it. We're going to do it. Keep those flashlights charged, right? Got to charge them. Got to have those torches charged. But if you're anything like Prophet, and I'm sure you notice new stuff all the time, keep your Damasteel Band-Aids close. I thought I lost this. I was super happy to find it again. But this is more of a Prophet-sized Band-Aid, right? So keep your Band-Aids close. But at the end of the day, you have to be the sharpest tool in your EDC loadout. We'll see you soon. Thanks, EDC family.